And there's a sense of enjoyment that comes from it, that there's a connection between what a person sees and how they feel. It makes them feel happy, it makes them feel good. The same applies to what we hear. But at the same time, there is also a danger. Because there are things that people look at and see that gives them enjoyment, but are displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are things that people hear that makes them feel good, gives them a sense of enjoyment, but is displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the point that we're trying to get across here is that when an individual uses their eyesight and uses their hearing in that which is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it gives them that sense of comfort, it gives them that sense of good, it's a reminder of what is to come in the hereafter, but it is something beyond your imagination. Make that connection, because people want to see things and hear things that make them feel good, and so they'll go around looking for these things in the dunya, whether they're pleasing or displeasing to Allah, but there is a connection there. However, when a person gives up for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that which is displeasing, because it's so easy to fall into that which is based on what you see and what you hear, that is acts of disobedience to Allah. It's so easy. We're filled with so many temptations and tribulations that surround us. It's so easy to fall into that. But yet if you give that up for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you say, no, I want to save my eyesight for the sake of Allah, for that which is going to be much greater. And there is that which is beautiful and permissible that Allah gives us in His signs, in His creation, that we're supposed to think of and contemplate and remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we see the things in His creation, like the mountains and like the stars and like the trees and the flowers, right? All these things, and we contemplate and we say, subhanallah, how great is Allah's creation. But it's to make that connection between the dunya and the akhirah, in the sense of, if this is what we can experience here and now, how much greater is that experience with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us, He says, what I have prepared for my servants, for my righteous servants, meaning those who obey me, what no eye has ever seen, what no ear has ever heard. In other words, it's something that it's much greater than anything you've ever seen, much greater or better than anything you've ever heard. In fact, you can't even imagine it. You can't even imagine the greatness of the reward that is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you decided and you chose to live a life of piety and righteousness. You chose to give up what is displeasing to Him so that you're seeking His pleasure. And it's a struggle. And it's not easy. But every time if you're tempted to look at that which is impermissible, think of this hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where Allah Himself is promising His righteous servants, He'll give us that which is beyond our imagination. وَلَا خَطَرَ عَلَى قَلْبِ بَشَرٍ. You can't even imagine. You can't even imagine the blessing and the goodness and the level of pleasure, the bliss that is hidden with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's where that verse comes in. No soul knows what delights are hidden from it. They're hidden. You can't see them. It's for a reason. It's to give us that sense of shawq, to give us that sense of longing that this is something I want to work towards. And I can only get it if I obey my Lord, if I surrender myself to Him, if I do things that are for His sake. And then you'll be able to achieve that which is beyond your imagination. You can't even imagine the delights. That's how great it is. It's beyond your imagination. But remember, the opposite applies as well in terms of the hellfire. The punishments of the fire, they're beyond our imagination. That's how severe they are. That it's something that we cannot even though we have descriptions of it, it's something that is beyond our imagination. We don't understand the reality of these things. So strive towards that which is pleasing to Allah, and to leave that which is displeasing, so that you attain those great pleasures with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that you avoid those aspects or elements that are only for our detriment and that will only cause us great pain and agony in the hereafter. يروي الإمام البخاري وإمام مسلم في حديث متفق عليه عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال الله تعالى أعددت لعبادي الصالحين ما لا عين رأت ولا أذن سمعت ولا خطر على قلب بشر واقرأوا إن شئتم فلا تعلم نفس ما أخفي لهم من قرة أعين جزاء بما كانوا يعملون. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.